You guys have kind of gone over this, but I think it's so important to understand. I know I have the most experience seeing in the cutting. Like, we've seen those horses that have peaked at the 2-year-old sale, and they look like they're ready to go show in the futurity that day, and then never see them again. Yep. Why do you think that happens? I mean, is that...
I mean, I would hate to just pick one reason.
Sure.
Because I think there's so many variables to all that. Who gets them after, what was done with them that 3-year-old year, all that. But there is a point to me, especially on a cutter, to where you can max them out, but that horse has to have interest in its job. And if you use up all of that interest in 1 year, you know, I think that is part of it. You know, maybe they've seen it too much. And I think, and this might sound silly, but in Texas where we are, it is really hot and it is really humid in the summer. And I've done it, and I've gone too far with horses in the summertime. And I think, and I've had them, they start out really good, they're really bright on a cow, everything is going good. And then you keep pushing through those hot months, and that horse just loses its fire, loses its desire, you know. And then, you know, so I don't know that I have a great answer to that. And yes, I think some horses get pushed too hard. I think that happens all the time, and I've been guilty of it myself several times.
Yeah, for sure. I think I have a point. There's so many factors we don't control after the sale.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know, but I think that's also a point. I mean, how can you blame somebody who buy a Ferrari and drive 30 miles an hour? You know, it's like, okay, well, if I'm buying a 300,000 type of 2-year-old, you know, and it looks incredible on the video, and why am I stopping 5 feet? You know what I mean? It's like, at the end, like, I think the people who are buying it is very important, because I think that will be a breaking.
When sometimes it's just not a fit, right?
Yeah.
Just happens, and those, you know, that trainer feels like they have to grind it out because they pulled their customer to get that much for that horse, and it just is kind of they're backed into a corner trying to do the best they can.
Well, and it can happen both ways, and I think that's where time and experience comes in, to be on the guy buying it, to take it as a 3-year-old as well as its 2-year-old year, because you've seen younger, more inexperienced trainers buy an amazing 2-year-old out of the sale, and maybe they didn't know how to handle it. Maybe they pushed it too hard. But that's where, just like I say, experience and knowledge, and horsemanship comes into so much play. And again, there's no, I love your analogy, but they're not a car.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah, you're right.
So, and I think and especially talking to a variety of customers coming from different places, they want hard, set in stone facts about what is happening and what's going to happen. We have a lot of knowledge and experience, but it's a living animal. We can't control,
for sure,
everything that happens. We can't control if they all of a sudden get EPM and we're behind 2 weeks, or, you know, that one gets cast, or, you know, like, there's so much
for sure,
that goes into it. And we joke at our house all the time, like, the horses are literally left alone for 6 to 7 hours at nighttime, and that's it. The rest of the time, there's all eyes on, something is going to happen. The 2-year-old is gonna try to kill itself in its padded stall. And there's nothing we can do about it, you know, aside from sleep with them.
Yeah, and you have a great point about it's not a car. I mean, and I'm learning it personally, and Ruben Van Dorp was a great mentor for me as far for making a 3-year-old, because this is like a room who has not much light. I'm learning that process. I'm pretty confident with the 2-year-old, but, you know, with the 3-year-old deal, my first 3-year-old, I was like all the time pushing the RPM all the time. And Ruben was like, okay, dude, you need to understand, like, if you fix. Like, it's not because on the 2-year-old, a horse cannot live picking. all the time.
That's a great.
You know, so it's not a car, like you say. It's you maintain, you work, you do your homework, and once in a while the customer is gonna come see it. You start picking it, you show it to your customer, you come back down, or a sale is coming. Okay, now they want to start seeing videos, or you know somebody is coming to try it. You're gonna start like picking him again. Then you come back down after you sell or don't sell. But you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's very important to be aware of it. And I'm learning it more, not with the 2-year-old because I'm doing it with the 2-year-old, but with the 3-year-old and timing it to the show and stuff like this. This is really where I'm very grateful to have Ruben, because he's helping me like, okay, you're doing good, they're broke. Like, don't try to peek in, because I am insecure about where my 3-year-old should be. Like, he's like, he managed me in that way. And I think I'm very grateful for that. But like, it's learning, and that's the experience. It's like those 2-year-old, you can't, somebody put it on Facebook, 1% every day. I am totally against it. It is not true with 2-year-old, because the 2-year-old, you figure out something and you have 20% all of a sudden. And then you might regret, you might go down, it's not like, try to improve yourself 1% every day. That's a ton of pressure. I cannot do it on 2-year-old. On 2-year-old, I'm like, yeah, you're doing great. You're perfect. And I'm not improving anything. And then all of a sudden I'm like pushing something up, and then they don't progress like this. 2 horses progress like this. And at the end, you started here, you finish here. But in the middle, it's like this. It's not 1% every day. I am not that way of training.
I agree.
Great point.
And it's not a car, but like it's you, so you can't push the RPM every day, and that's for sure.
But in that scenario, like you're talking about in the process, that's to me sometimes that's the hardest conversations with customers is giving answers, you know, and rightfully so. They want answers. They want to know, are we wasting our time? Are we wasting our money? Or I don't care how much money we're spending. I want this horse to make it. You know, there's all different types of customers that have different goals. But that's the heart of a really big challenge sometimes is, well, your horse is not very good this week. Like, I wouldn't give you 10 grand for him. But we're in the middle of something, and next week, I think we're going to be a lot better. You know, and it's a roller coaster. So we're talking about like kind of that 6-month period. We need to kind of have some answers, but sometimes we don't have all the answers, and sometimes we're right, and sometimes we're wrong. But that's where that trust and managing goals, I think, is so important. And any new customer that calls me, before I even know what their horse is, what's your goal? What best case scenario? What would you like to happen with this horse? Worst case scenario, this is what could happen with your horse. And that's when we go into talking about conformation, how they're bred, how they're taking training. But I think those conversations are so important. Of what's your goal? Okay, I want an open cutting horse or an open reining horse. Okay, well then I can call you in 2, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, and say, this one ain't it, or this one is it, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a crystal ball for sure to see the future and know it. I mean, if I had one, you had one, or you had one, or sure, we would not be sitting here.
Right.
So, you know, it's like, I think horses kind of give you stages. To me, it's like, you know, and to the point, like few first days in the rampant when you work it, like, how does that feel? You know, but like, they're gonna change through the process, but they give you kind of milestones. And are they hitting those milestones for me? Like, you know, the breaking out process, the 90-day process, 6 months, you know, and they change. I mean, some, you know, my best 90-day horses not always end up being in the finals, you know, and you're like, whoa, this is amazing. In 90 days, and it deflate and never makes the finals. So I think they hit milestone, and they need to keep hitting those milestones. And yeah, I think that's super important. I think also, you know, I mean, I am the example of it. Like, I am dyslexic, and when I was 7 years old, I couldn't freaking read anything. But my buddy will be reading perfectly at 7 years old. But right now, one of my hobbies is reading. And, my buddy right now that at 7 years old was reading perfectly, he's probably not reading one book. You know what I mean? But so you don't know which one also, because horses will surprise you. Like I have a colt right now that in a rampant hitting the milestone perfectly. I mean, first week in the rampant, I was like, this thing is awesome. I want to buy it. I'm going to call that customer. I'm like, okay, wait a little bit. I ride him in the outdoor. It's a freaking dragon. And I don't know what happened. In that horse, right now, I put 60 days outside. I'm riding this thing in the pasture. I cannot ride him around 10 horses in the arena with tractor, bunch of stuff. He does not get the information. So I go in the pasture and do all my thing. When it's going to be time to slide and need ground, he's going to kind of have to get over that. But right now I'm like, I'm okay. Let's be creative. Let's go ride him over there. He's getting the information. And that's where, like you said, there's having customer that, okay to hear that. Hey, I'm taking, that's where like, I think you have to be a little bit of, as a 2-year-old trainer, I mean, my personal goal is to be, kind of level 4 type of guy who focus on 2-year-old and is a Swiss Army knife. Like if this part of the knife doesn't cut well, let's switch it. Maybe if we switch things around, that might work on that horse, and then for sure, I think kind of thinking about with experience that you have is like you kind of have, this is the direction. The road might be a little bit like this, but we're going to end up there. Are they hitting those milestones? It's kind of what I'm asking. And if they do, I'll tell the customer really well. And if they don't also, I think they pay us to tell them that.
Right.
I mean, I am not afraid to tell, hey, I'm sorry, we thought we had a reining horse, but it is a straight up donkey, or it is great, but it's not a level 4. It's going to make a nice reining horse, but it's not, I don't think the level 4. And I think also as a trainer is don't judge them too quick and don't quit on there too quick too. It's like, don't judge like the one that I'm riding in the pasture might end up in the level 4 finals. So I'm not going to judge him too quick for or somebody judge me for being dyslexic. It's like they have something to offer. So don't judge them too quick. And then also don't quit on them too quick for the same, argument. It's like, it's not because it doesn't, and that's the beauty of 2-year program is we can be creative in that. A bigger program going to have to be a little bit more cookie dough, but like, yeah, don't quit on them. I'm the last one to quit on my horses. But after, really important to give a realistic picture to your customer. This is what I'm dealing with. It's not a killer, but this is what I'm dealing with,
As we see these 2-year-old programs, and I'm sure this is the case with you, I know this is the case with him. Unfortunately, like, I have so many people call me, I would love to sit to tie, but I'm like, he doesn't have room, we're having to just continually squeeze and squeeze. And the tides have turned and are going to continue to turn. So my question for you guys is, how can someone be a great customer where you want to continue to work with them through the peaks and valleys? Because there's going to be peaks and valleys with these 2-year-olds year after year. You're going to completely kill it at the sale one year and they're going to be like, I can quit my job and you just ride my 2-year-olds. And then some years they're like, I'm going to have to take an extra job because none of these worked. And through those peaks and valleys, what does it look like to you guys when you walk out of that sale ring, win, lose, or draw at the end of the year, and you just say, man, that's a great customer. I did the best job I could do for him. And what does that look like to you guys?
What is a great customer? To me, it's really just somebody who listens, I think. I don't know if that's how you feel about it, but it's somebody when you do call and say, this is not working out or I need more time or whatever, just that they listen. And I'd take into account, too, that they're spending a lot of money.
No, for sure.
And that money is not lost on me.
I think we're very aware of how much money they spend or how much money they have in those horses and how can we, be successful with that. It's always in my mind for sure. A great customer for me is somebody that is on your team with the, with the win, but also with the, the losing part of the game. And that is, I think it's not a short-term relation and game to play. I think it's a game that you play long-term and you play on numbers.
Gonna say before, especially like people who want to get into to invest in yearlings and buy and train 2-year-olds and sell them. If you're average, you may have 3 bad years and one good one that makes up for 3 bad.
Yeah, it's an average game. It's you're gonna make some, lose some, equal some. It's a longer term investment and game. So they're gonna have a good customer. It's gonna have to be able to be very aware of that. I think to be successful is be able to, play long term and have those low and have those high and those or have those average, and I think a great customer for me too is hearing, bad news, bad news like, oh, it's not working the way, we expecting and willing to lose, or even like, hey, we might finish even on that horse. Let's keep moving forward. Everybody is a great customer or when we are winning, but are you going to be also that way? And I've been proof literally the last 6 months by a couple that they are amazing customers. We had very unfortunate thing happen and the guy was like, let's go again and let's go harder. I'm going to go buy a bunch of them. You want to go and move forward. And I was like, I was about to shake his hand and say, you're a great guy. I'm a great guy. We try our best, but this is not working. We had 0 luck so far. And the guy didn't walk away. He said, I believe in you. We're going to go work harder. And I was like, I thought that's what we were going to do when we had dinner. And so great customers, somebody that is willing, understand the game. It's a long game with up and downs. And then also when it's down, that we also they have to understand we have their best interest in mind, and we don't control everything.
Right. Well, I'll venture away from that just a little bit because I think this is something that needs to be talked about. That's not very often. I think we have a pretty big disconnect a lot of times with trainers and owners. I think from the training side, we have a lot of guys that just believe that the money is endless and are very lost on how much this is costing. Was this really necessary? Is this something that we have to do or not do, and are not very mindful of customers' money? And yes, most people who are playing in the horse game are using extra money. It's tax money or, whatever it is. It's usually not somebody depending on that to live. And that leads me into my other side of it. There's a lot of customers that don't understand that it is our money to live. This is how I make a living. This is how I take care of my family. This is all I can depend on, so. And I think it needs to go a little bit both ways. I think customers need a better understanding of, hey, this is how this guy is making his mortgage payment, and on the other side of it is, hey, just because this might be expendable income doesn't mean that I would prefer to lose all of it, because they even though it's expendable, it was worked for. There's a lot of grinding going in to get that money. And I think just on both sides being respectful of both sides, and that's for me that any type of issue with customers that I've had most of the time goes back to one of those two lacks of perspective. So for sure, really, so to circle back and really answer your question, a good customer is somebody who listens, that you can communicate easily with, that you have the same goals, and pay on time.
That's a big one.
You know, we have hay bills. We have to pay our employees. We have people depending on us. For sure. You know, and when you're 6 months behind because it's not a big deal to you because it doesn't affect your life, that puts us in a bind. You know, and I don't know about you, but I mean, I've lived with 20,000 on my credit card that I can pay for months at a time. You know, and that's not fair either.
Yeah, and at the end, it's gonna affect them because if you can't do your job and can't do it at the facility or pay for the facility or the people, it's gonna affect their horses. So, you know, it's very important to do that. I will add that, yeah, a good customer is somebody also is willing to have a hard conversation with you, and where emotional or not related, it's just a hard conversation and we have to make decision, and also that it's not the idea of who is right or wrong, is we both have your goal in interest. At least for me, it's very important because I'm not showing your horses anymore. I never show. I mean, I show a few horses for people, but like my only interest is for you to be successful or that horse to be successful with. You know, it's and a lot of my customers, or you know, some wants to sell, but most of them also wants to see the horses be successful. So I mean, like, I don't have, like, beside paying me for my job and my time, I don't have like a ton of, you know, I'm not going to be in the front of the cover. My goal is not that. My goal is to make your horse to be on the front of the cover. And so it's not for me, it's for your horse and it's for you, you know. So I really, in my head is, you know, it's, if I have a hard conversation with you, is just for the good of this horse and your goal.
I think all three of us sitting at this table can relate to, we've been, and I know we are very grateful here that our stalls are always over full. His are, and it sounds like you drew people away last year, yours are too. And so we are a unique group in the horse business that is very grateful that we do have an overabundance of clients right now. And I know that could change any day.
Yes.
But right now we're grateful that that is how it is. But I think, you know, people, they need to understand that if you can't have those hard conversations, there's somebody that wants to come into that stall, especially at y'all's houses. And there are times when those clients get fired, and there's times when vice versa, they need to fire their horse trainer.
Yep.
It's not a one-way street.
No.
Or their breeding manager. You know, it's my job to do them a great job, but I can tell you, and I know you guys, like, I tell people sometimes, and I'm like, listen, I know it's frustrating. You know, we've bred this mare twice with flusher eyes. We haven't got an embryo. I don't make the rules. I just have to play by them. You know, we've thrown the kitchen sink at her. But I guess what I'm getting at with this is nobody wanted us to have an embryo the first time worse than me.
Yep.
I want them to know that.
Yes,
Because, and the main reason is, circling back to all this, is because I need that stall.
Yes.
So not only do I want to do a great job for you, not only do I want to make sure we get that baby that can be on the cover one day,
Yeah.
I also need that spot that mare's in for somebody else to come in, so I could make sure I make their dreams come true.
Yes.
Too. So believe me, I want to get her bred and get her home to you as quickly as possible. And I think it's the same way with you guys. I think some people think like, oh, they just want to get the board bill or the training bill. I can tell you, for me, and probably a lot of for y'all, the training bill and the board bill have so much overhead. It's nobody's getting rich off of that.
Oh, no.
Not at all. And so you guys want to have that stall with a good horse that whenever it's all said and done, you can hopefully get a good commission on it.
Yes.
You can get your part of a commission, because that's kind of your payday. The rest of the time, you're just paying bills.
Yes.
You know, and that's what I think people think, like, well, gosh, dang, they charge $2,500 a month. That $2,500 a month, don't touch it. Y'all talk about bridles, saddles, you know.
Yes.
So to be a great customer too, they have to understand, you know, nobody wants every single horse in their barn to be successful more than you two.
Yes.
Not only for a reason of just the ego.
Yes.
But also just, you know, the commissions and things that are really the payoff for you guys. And if those people sometimes we understand it's frustrating when we have to call them and tell them it doesn't work. But there's a point too where sometimes I'm like, listen, this just might not be the right spot for you. Like, I want to do your work and want your mare to be successful, but sometimes we have to cut ways, and that has to go both ways. We also have to do our part in communicating, just like y'all have to answer the phone and say, you know, your horse is not very good right now. Give me another 30 days, you know. circling back to that, one other thing I want to add in, because I know we tell people this, is like, also, you guys can't train horses when you're on the phone. You can't talk to them every day about how Peanut is doing. You know, we know this is something that's a hobby for them, and they want to know, and they want to be involved, and we want them to be involved, but they also have to give you guys the time to do your job. And so you can't do it on the phone, even though you're pretty good at talking with the AirPods in. You can't do it.
I can't do it.
Yeah, you can't do two things at once, probably. And so,
Very well.
and I think that's another thing, is it's like, yes, call and check on your horse. 100%. Go watch them.
Yes.
You know, go put your eyes on them, especially if this isn't a trainer that you have experience with, because there's good guys and bad guys out there. And sometimes there's good guys that just get too busy. You know, they're not trying to be bad guys. They're just growing, and they're too busy, and they're just whatever. Your horse might get behind. I don't know. But, you know, phone calls. A lot of people ask me, like, what is a reasonable amount of times to call my horse trainer? And I'm like, which I'm very lucky. We have a great center. And I'm like, I rarely call, maybe every 60 days. And I'm like, but I tell our trainers too, like, if this horse isn't good, I need to know.
Yep.
Like, pick up the phone and call me and just tell me. I'm not going to argue with you about it. Great. No problem. Thank you for telling me. We'll be there to get it.
Well, and I think that, just like I was saying earlier, that the number one horse gets dropped off, like, we need a set of expectations right now.
Sure.
Yep.
So we know, you know.
And that conversation is easier had, and this is something I think is really important for young people in this industry, because I try to have it with my breeding customers, no different than y'all would have it with yours, is when they drop the horse off. It's like, hey, this is a 15-year-old maiden mare. You need to understand that we may not get this done right off the bat. That's a much easier conversation to have then than when they get a $3,000 bill 90 days later and no baby. And they're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And when you could say, well, remember when we dropped her off, we talked about this may be a little bit of an uphill battle, and it may be with no trophy at the top.
Yep.
So sometimes it's easier to manage those client expectations up front. And that's where I think a lot of trainers get in a bind, is they don't manage those expectations, especially with people that are new to the industry, because they don't know. They don't know what to expect. All they see is that somebody bought a horse at the maturity sale for $100,000 as a yearling, and they got $850,000 for it at the 2-year-old sale, and they think like, well, all it takes is money and a good trainer. You know, I just buy the yearling, it costs $100, send it to the trainer, and I'm going to make money. Like, so I think especially educating our people that are new to the industry, because they're so important to our growth, and they're not trying to want to call you every day, or they're not trying to be upset whenever you tell them their horse is bad. We just didn't set the expectations beforehand, so they kind of know, like, hey, call me once a month if you don't hear from me. Let's talk about your horse.
Yep.
You know, if you want to come look at it, come out here. Please try not to do it on a Sunday, because that's the time that I, just set up those. And that's where I think a lot of people that are young in the industry have to take some ass whippings before they learn to get ahead of them. To stay ahead of them, I think is the key.
Well, and I think too, like, when you're young and you first go on your own, you're just tickled that somebody sent you a horse. Sure, it's going to do whatever they want. And you're going to talk to them whenever they want, because you're so excited to have them, you know.
Oh, for sure.
I know for me, it was that way.
Yeah.
I didn't set up, and number one, I didn't have enough experience to set up guidelines or have those conversations, because I didn't know. You know, it took a lot of falling on my head to understand how to have those conversations and how to set expectations, and and I think that's comes with a lot of experience, and having started hundreds of 2-year-olds, is knowing how you can have those conversations, and when to and when not to.
There's a lot of good horse trainers that haven't had the success they should have had because they didn't have the people skills they should have had. Right? And it doesn't matter how great of a horse trainer you are or you're not. Those people skills dictate a lot of your success in this industry. So if you're sitting here listening to this and you want to be a horse trainer and you're not good at communicating and you're not good at people skills, that's probably the first thing you should work on.
Yeah.
Because I think
Are you trying to get me to raise my hand right now?
No, I do not. Ty's people skills have improved with a lot of coaching from the other Ty significantly.
Immensely.
Well, and I think for you, it was just learning how to talk to people. I mean, Ty Smith has spent a lifetime evaluating horses and talking to people, and it's easy for him. Ty Smith is not a horse trainer. We don't see Ty out there training 2-year-olds. You know, that's not what his strength is in. That's why Ty Benson trains the 2-year-olds. And so, but Ty can, you know, and that's kind of on finding your mentors and like Doug and these people that know people skills, understand their habits and, you know, what their expectations are going to be. And I just think whether you're a customer listening to this, an established customer of a horse trainer, somebody that's new that wants to get, whether it's into the breeding business or business with you guys, send horses to y'all, or whether you're a young person or somebody that is just struggling in their program, I think you can take a step back and see how that staying on top of that communication and staying ahead of that is just a game changer. And as a customer, you know, managing your expectations, and maybe for a customer, they have to have that conversation with their horse trainer. You know, sometimes they have to be the one to initiate that. Like, hey, I hired this person to be a horse trainer, not babysit me. Okay, horse trainer, how often should I call you a month?
Yeah.
What is going to annoy you?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to pay my bill on time every month, but I expect you to answer the phone when I call once a month.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't pay your bill on time and you're 6 months behind, you're going to have a lot less chance of your horse trainer answering the phone on time or being real excited about calling you back.
For sure.
So,
I mean, I call sometimes my customer. Most of the time, they're like, "Everything okay?"
yeah.
Yeah, everything okay. I'm just to let you know how good or bad your horse is doing, you know. But they're like worried because I call them, you know, before they call me about the horse.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, Ruben Van Dorp helped me so much with that because he is, I mean, if you know the guy, he can do so many things in once. I can't. But like you say, Max, you can train a horse very well. But like your skills, phone, I mean, my phone was in the tack room most of the day, you know. And then he was like, you can't build a business like this. You're gonna have to, you know, answer, you know. And I say, I answer every time. He said, you can't answer 5 hours after the text. You don't have to do it right now when it beep, you stop your horse. But like, you're gonna have to be better at it. And he helped me with that. And he was like, he just was a pain in my butt for it. But like, he helped me like being definitely better.
Thank goodness you had somebody that pointed that out and helped you with that. Because I think for us, as we both have done our due time as assistants and apprentices and come up in that way, but as an assistant trainer, we're trying to learn how to train horses, take care of them, and show. Like that's all we care about. We're not allowed to talk to the customers as an assistant. No. So when we do get the skills developed to be able to train one and to have all of those skills to go out on our own, all of a sudden we look up and we don't know how to run a business. We don't know how to talk to customers. Yeah. We don't know any of that. You know, when I left Corrig Fishings to move to Texas, I asked him, do you think I'm ready before I left? And he said, yeah, you can train one and you can show one. You're really good at it. But he said, you have no clue what you're about to get into for the business, you know? And he was right. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, you know? But we don't really have an education system in that sense, because we have the traditional, you go and work for somebody as an apprentice, you learn how to train them. But those trainers aren't teaching us how to do the business because their mentors didn't teach them how to run business, you know? So that part of the passing down from trainer to trainer is kind of lost. And so, you know, I've been very fortunate with Ty and Melanie and Doug and everybody that I've gotten to be around that have helped me with that side of it. And you with Ruben and
Ruben and Al Benning probably helped me a ton.
Yeah, Al's very good businessman. But I think there's a lot of that education that is not getting passed down, you know, and the way the industry is evolving, that's something that needs to elevate. But I see it on the other side too. There's guys coming up that are leaving an apprenticeship before they can really train one. Yeah. You know, but maybe they're really good with people and they have some business knowledge. Maybe they went to college. Yeah. And I see some guys, especially in the 2-year-old deal, that are on their own and they have a barn full of horses. They're really good at talking to people and running their business. But I don't want them on my horse, you know? So those two skills have to rise and be balanced. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when my first year going on my own, I had this horse and the fear I had was a little bit like, talking to my customer about that horse, because that was my best customer for a while. I had a Ruben that's how we start working together. He took 6 2-year-old and he said, I heard you're really good with it. You run. I'm not your boss. You just come ride the horses, do the best you can do. And that helped me build my business. And I had an outside customer who had a really nice horse, but there was some issues and things and I had, because I was so grateful, and he was a good horse, but like, I was so grateful, I didn't want to give too much of the bad news. And after a few conversations, not with the customer, but my peers, they said, your job is to tell them. And so, and I tell them, and the horse I show and made the final with it. And so it was not about horse, but how you deliver information to your customer is super important, because I am technically usually on the negative side. I'm not going to, I prefer you being surprised coming to see the horse and be like, well, actually it's better than what you tell me. I prefer that than being like, oh, it's super good and then it deflate. So I'm usually, when I talk about the horses, I will emphasize what I am going through with them, the bad part of it, and then the good part. And just for them to know, but deliver not bad news, because that's meaning like it's the end, we draw a line in the sand. I'm not saying that, like, it's just like, we're going through this right now, and how I'm going to present it to you is very important. And I think, it's experience. I remember one of the customer, Ruben, I had the horse, and I love the horse, but when I talk about this horse to that customer, I was pretty negative about it. Just, I want to make sure you know what you got. Like, and Ruben came after. He was like, okay, dude, we need to talk about how we do delivering, because this is a good horse. We can't talk about that horse that way about that horse, So it is experience. I think obviously you can have mentorship, like you had, like I have with Ruben or Hal Dunning, but at the end it's experience too. Yeah, for sure. It is a challenge, and each people are different. So you're gonna have to have a little bit of feel. But I think when you work with horses, you do too. Like, you had that feel.
Yeah, and something that some people have a gift for, some people don't. But you can always work on what is not your gift.
Yes.
Yes,
for sure.
And with the communication side of it, I'm not trying to beat the dead horse, but we're really the only industry, as being a horse trainer, your name's on the gate, that we do all the things. We are, I'm like sports, so I like to relate it to sports, but for like a professional sports team, we are the CEO, we are the scout, we are the trainer, we are the coach, and we're the athlete.
Yeah.
All at the same time. So it's, I don't know what the answer to fixing that is, but the plate can get awfully full, especially if you have a big, good, thriving business. Mm-hmm. That plate, we wear an awful lot of hats that way. And I think that's a little bit of the difficulty that we have sometimes with communication. Because if you truly are doing a good job and you're out there doing the deal every day, you're not going to be on the phone. You physically can't be on the phone because you're actually doing your job, So I don't know what exactly the answer and how the industry could change that way at all, but that was just another.
Well, I hope that this has given really good insight. I think we've done a really cool thing today where we kind of given a customer insight to a trainer's brain, both how does a 2-year-old program work? How do you prepare to send 1-to-1? How does that process go? And, here's how it really works. Here's the behind the scenes of how a trainer thinks and how to be a great customer and what you should expect out of your trainer and when to have the talk about those expectations. And then having these young guys or established 2-year-old trainers that also can hopefully listen to this and pick up some of what you guys have done to make y'all's program so successful and the way that you think. And so hopefully this has been really helpful to people. We know that both of you guys have limited programs and would love to take every new client that calls, but we know that doesn't happen. But I think, you know, if people want to reach out, we'll start with you, Max. How do they get a hold of you? You know, is there a Facebook page, website?
Yeah, website, I'm working on it. But yeah, Facebook, my phone number, email, Instagram too.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. Now, yeah, I'm full.
Yeah, that's great. And that's a great routing to have. But they can also call you and say, hey, you know, I want to be put on the list.
Yeah,
This is kind of my goals in the future. And, you know, I really want to have this level of ringer. And maybe you say, hey, I'm maybe not the perfect person for you, but here is who I think would be really good. And you can help guys in that way. Or Ty, the same thing with you. I know you don't have a website because I haven't made you one. So they can see your Facebook, all of that, communicate with you guys through there, talk to Morgan, and just kind of understand the process of how they get on the list to have horses with you. And, you know, if you can't help them, same thing, and try to refer them to some people that you know are good.
Yes.
Or so. So if anybody is wanting to contact these guys, you can shoot an email to us too, and we can get you in touch with them. Like they said, right now, they're both of their programs are full. And one thing we didn't talk about, but I want to touch on, because I think this is the case with Ty, and I'm assuming it's with you, these aren't 30-day situations either. And you're going to put a horse in their programs. This is a year commitment. And so people need to understand that, you know, these guys are colt starters, but a little different than some breeds of colt starters in that they can't step away from their regular horses during June to put 30 days on your colt. So, you know, these guys take courses, they're on a schedule, they come in a cadence every year, they go through the program, they start again. And so that means you've got to commit to a full year. So some of you guys that need ones that you say, you know, I don't really need that, I just need 60, 90 days.
Yeah.
You can email into our office. We'll try to help you find somebody that can help with that. But these guys are truly, they have a program in the truest sense that it's very much a start to finish from the first ride to the end of that 2-year-old year to be ready, like he said, to have the tools that they need to go be a comprehensive toolbox for the next person to build out of. So appreciate everybody listening today. Thank you guys so much for coming on. This is one of my favorite ones we've done so far. I think it's really, really insightful, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you.
Yes, guys, that was fun, guys.
All right.
We survived it.
That was good.